What a monster trade that was. Luka Doncic heading to the Los Angeles Lakers, Anthony Davis heading to the Dallas Mavericks, and the Boston Celtics are kind of sitting there watching all this unfold, knowing that they're the reason these teams are trying to make these trades right now. Not only did Boston end Luka Doncic in Dallas, they also get a last laugh over Anthony Davis's dad that was talking all sorts of shit a few years back, saying when the Celtics were reportedly interested in AD. We're going to get into all that and more on today's episode of the Celtics Chronicle. Billy, man, I woke up, it was about 7 a.m., 7:30 a.m. UK time. Saw that there was just a bunch of notifications on my phone. I mean, a whole heap of notifications. And you know when you're not fully awake and you're scrolling, or when you're not fully awake, sometimes you're like, am I still asleep? Am I kind of awake in a dream where I'm not fully there yet? I see this, Lakers receive Luka Doncic for AD. I'm like, that's not right, man. Somebody's been hacked somewhere, trade. So, like, this is an NBA Centel type of tweet. No, dude, like, Anthony Davis is now with the Dallas Mavericks. Luka Doncic goes to the Lakers. I'm sitting here trying to figure out how this impacts the Celtics, potentially in an NBA Finals run. How do you feel, man? Like the landscape of the NBA is starting to shift, and I feel like this is the move that sets all the other dominoes off.
I just can't believe they got away with it again. The Lakers do this decade after decade after decade. They mismanage their assets, they draft poorly, they make bad trades, they give out bad contracts, and they're just handed a generational player again and again and again. It's so frustrating that now the next 10 to 15 years of the Lakers, they actually have somebody to pass the torch to.
It's really bizarre because if the reporting is true, the Mavericks only sounded out the Lakers and then a mystery team. Nobody knows who that other team is, right? Could have been Boston. Maybe they wanted a Jaylen Brown. It could have been whoever, right? Insert random team here and then the Lakers. So it's not even like Dallas was trying to maximize their return. They had pinpointed one or two players, I'd assume two based on the mystery team, that they felt would be the best return for Luka. They didn't want to hear packages. They didn't want to go through an entire saga. It was very much like, we want AD or we want this guy. And whoever the other team was clearly shut that down. Like, no, we don't want to do this deal, which is bizarre, right? Because the incoming guy is Luka. So take from that what you will. And then the Lakers look into another generational star. Now, for the Celtics, from the Celtics standpoint, I'm looking at this like, I don't expect to see the Lakers in the NBA Finals for the next 2 or 3 years. I think there's a lot of roster changes in LA that need to happen. In the short term, I think LeBron James's future there is completely in doubt. If you look at the way these two guys play, LeBron is 4th in the NBA right now for assists per game. That's where he's most effective at this stage in his career, assists and three-point shooting. You're going to try and limit his attempts at the rim because of the contact his body's got to go through. How can he do that? How can he be a high-level playmaker without the ball in his hands? Because the ball's going to be in Luka's hands. They're going to build around Luka now. Every decision Rob Pelinka and Jeannie Buss make isn't about maximizing the LeBron years now. It's about maximizing the Luka years. And LeBron will probably not want to be around for that. So he's going to be going Golden State. Maybe he tries to get back to Cleveland for a final farewell tour. Could like what's going on in New York. Boston could try and do what they did with Shaq and pick him up for like the end of his career that way. There's so many options, right? I just don't think that this deal immediately makes the Lakers a threat, but I do think there's a bigger chance that we run back into Dallas if the Celtics make it to the NBA Finals.
That's interesting. I do like it from the Dallas point of view, and Danny Ainge was more than happy to finally help felicitate getting Kyrie and AD together after all these years. That was his grand plan in Boston, that AD's father would not let happen, so he says. I don't think his dad had that much power, but I think he was just talking crap. But on the Lakers' point of view, they just rebuilt in a way where LeBron retires in a year or two. They just have somebody to give the keys to and you can build around. And they obviously didn't feel that AD was going to be that person. The biggest thing, though, is they have 5 or 6 days to get a center. So if they do want to be a contender this year, there are plenty of centers on the market. There's your Clint Capellas. There's your Robert Williams. They can even go the other way and get a more offensive center like a Vucevic. Miles Turner's always going to be linked to the Lakers. They have the assets, and they didn't give up enough picks in this Luka deal, which is insane. They only gave up one pick, where they can still get a pretty solid starting center in the next 4 or 5 days.
Yeah, and they're going to need that because they don't have any big man depth. They had limited big man depth with AD. So remove AD and it's like, you're going to rely on Christian Wood and Jackson Hayes. Like, it's not, you weren't relying on those guys as backups to AD, so you're definitely not going to rely on those guys ahead of AD. But again, you can plug whoever you want into this roster. You can go and get Miles Turner. You can go and get Valanciunas or whoever you want. The fact remains that you need to make a decision on how you're going to get Luka and LeBron playing high-level basketball together. And people are pointing towards like Kyrie and Luka managed to figure it out. Kyrie's not LeBron. LeBron's never been on a team before where he's the guy that has to defer. And he spoke about being willing to do that with AD over the years. And we kind of saw that a little bit. But Luka's a whole different level of alpha. He's going to walk in and command everybody. Like rotates around him. When we talk about heliocentric, you don't get more heliocentric than Luka Doncic. The defense needs to really be on a string. You're probably going to see them trade for a defensive-minded 2 guard to put next to Luka. The same way Atlanta has been searching to do that next to Trey, and they found it in Dyson Daniels. I've resigned myself to the idea that maybe the Lakers try and bring in a Marcus Smart or somebody like that. They need a big man, and then they need to figure out how they're going to do the LeBron Luka. Now, the only way I can see is you stagger them. You start them, and then you stagger their minutes, so then rarely on the floor at the same time. But those non-LeBron minutes are going to be an absolute nightmare defensively, even with Vanderbilt, even with DFS, even with insert defensive guy here. And from a Celtics perspective, obviously this is a Celtics shot. I'm loving life because next time the Celtics play this team, they're just going to go at Luka like crazy. They're going to tear him to pieces, and you don't have AD just waiting in the back to protect the rim. It is interesting. Dallas, on the other hand, I know people are clowning them right now, and I definitely see why. Like, you could have got a bigger return, but I think AD really just connects everything that they're trying to do. AD's got the best floor spacing around him he's ever had in his career right now. He got Klay Thompson as the catch and shoot guy.
Yeah, the AD part of it, I mean, if he's healthy, he did have a healthy season last year. It's just that locker room's so volatile because, like, for whatever reason, Kyrie and Luka clicked. And I know that it seems like Kyrie and AD, like, they've always wanted to play together. But Kyrie's, coming up on another contract too. He could leave. It's really, really tough. And I do believe that LeBron didn't orchestrate this. Like, I would love to blame LeBron for the, like, stabbing AD in the back and all that. In this situation, I don't even think LeBron knew, because I think the Lakers knew if this got out, like, even to LeBron and his people, it would have leaked, and then the deal falls apart. And then you have AD unhappy, you have Luka unhappy. I think only maybe 2-3 major, like, GMs, like, at the top of these two teams, and then whatever that third mystery team was, and they probably called Danny Ainge at the end and were like, hey, can you take this contract? We'll give you a couple throwaway picks just for being a part of it. And, Danny Ainge will always throw his hat in the ring for some free picks.
Yeah, it's like an addiction, dude. The dude's like, picks. Yeah, give me all them picks. Now, obviously, we've kind of spoke about how we think it's going to affect the Lakers immediately. A bit long term, obviously, they're going to build around Luka, not LeBron. For the Celtics, where I'm sitting at right now is this doesn't renew a rivalry in the next 2-3 years. By the time the Lakers are good enough to contend, the Celtics team won't look the same. There's a tough decision coming on Jaylen Brown and how you're going to deal with his contract long term. Drew Holiday probably won't be on this roster. Al Horford probably won't be on the roster. God knows if Kristaps will be on this roster. The only thing and it's hard to say this as we're talking about a trade nobody thought would ever happen, but the only logical player that you can say will unequivocally still be on this team is Tatum, assuming that Brad Stevens doesn't see Luka get traded and be like, well, we should trade Tatum, which he won't. By the time the Lakers are ready to contend, I'm not sure where the Celtics will be, and I'm not sure we'll be able to call it a genuine rivalry. Like, do you think this puts these two teams on a collision course for 3 or 4 NBA Finals battles over the next 10 years? Because I'm not sure I do.
Yeah, because Luka's an MVP caliber player. I know his stock's kind of in the mud right now, especially with, like, the weight issues. One Dallas reporter quoted that he's up to like 270, which doesn't even seem possible. But you go to LA, you get on that keto diet, it's going to be a lot of pressure. He's going to have adults in the room kind of hopefully pushing him towards that like LeBron regiment where you start taking care of your body. Like he's in the perfect situation for it. And he actually has people there that could call him out on it. And like just the pride and embarrassment, like he just got traded for being fat. Like let's call it what it is. They did not want to give him that 5-year supermax because of his conditioning. They did not believe. And that's a 25-year-old. I mean, we all know once you get older, that metabolism slows down. Like 25 is supposed to be the breezy years.
Yeah, I mean, look, 270 in pounds is, for anyone watching from Europe or from the UK, it's 122 kg. Now, me, I've been out of training. I usually do like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai. I've done it for most of my adult life. I've been out of training for about 18 months, more than that actually, since COVID, since the start of COVID. So 3 years now? I went back about 3-4 months ago now. I went back to training at a very similar weight to what Luka is now. And I'm seeing it drop off, but it's not easy to drop. And I'm 37, so Luka's 25. Luka should be able to drop at least 70 pounds pretty quickly. We have elite training staff, elite dietitians. The competition level he's going to face being on the Lakers and having LeBron next to him and fighting for that dominance, he should be operating down at around the 210, 220 mark. Now, what's wild is Luka Doncic got traded for being overweight before Zion Williamson got traded for being overweight. That's what's wild to me. And does this kind of facilitate the Pelicans feeling okay about moving Zion next? This is what I mean by dominoes falling. Like LeBron's probably going to move in the offseason. Zion could be the next guy up. The Pelicans are like, well, if Dallas are doing this, then we no one's going to look at us sideways for doing the same thing with Zion. There's going to be a lot of different moves happening now. I don't think the Celtics get involved in any of them because they simply can't do that unless they're trying to move on from Jalen, which they're not going to. But I do think by the time a lot of these teams making these moves are ready to contend, Boston's window's closed and they're rebuilding towards that second window of Tatum's career. So yes, it might reignite a rivalry, but I don't think it's going to be like a 5, 6, 7 year battle for the finals every year between them, the Lakers, the Mavericks, or whoever that may be.
I mean, how mad do you think like Fox, Butler, Ingram, all these guys that are just waiting to get traded? And it's like Fox isn't in San Antonio right now because San Antonio doesn't want to give up Castle, who's a nice player. When Luka Doncic just gets traded for essentially a pick and a 31-year-old aging superstar. Like, it's got to be the domino effect around the league, the way everybody's shocked, the frustration that like, hey, superstars are on the market. Like, I don't know what would happen if they called, instead of calling the Lakers, if they called Brad and were like, hey, we'll give you Luka for Jaylen Brown. I don't know who says no.
Yeah, I think Brad might say no, because how does Luka fit? Like, Brad's built a team that fits together, and I don't think he'd want to rock that boat while the championship window is still open. I can definitely see the argument for it. How does Tatum and Luka play together, though? You're going to you spent so many years building Tatum into this completely well-rounded player. Joe preaches defense. I don't know how that works. Obviously, you probably do that. Like, you're getting the better player in the deal. I don't see why you'd say no, other than defense. I do find it interesting, though, and I will say that maybe this is a very necessary deal in terms of the NBA, because it resets the market. It resets it from that Rudy Gobert clusterfuck of a trade where there was 1 million picks attached. And now all of a sudden it's like, a top 5 dude just got traded for a top 10 guy, top 15 guy, plus a pick. So the market resets itself. It's no longer, oh, you need to attach a bazillion picks to get this guy off a contract. I think the league needed that as a whole, just that market reset. Crazy that Luka's the guy being moved to make that reset happen. But I think that now asking prices around the NBA probably start to come down, because if you're trying to sell me Jimmy Butler for 3 or 4 guys and 5 picks, I'm going to be like, well, they got Luka for AD and a pick. So this isn't happening right now. You need to lower your expectations. So I'm hoping that actually is a positive that comes out of this deal.
Yeah, he might swing the other way, man, because when you have everybody in the league, even like players, people that work in the league, GMs for other teams, thinking that Shams got hacked because the trade's so lopsided, I don't know if it resets the market or it just makes like Dallas look like complete incompetence.
I mean, they get back to the NBA Finals this year, then Is it incompetence because they made the finals last year with Luka? If they do it again this year without Luka, that says more about Luka than it does about the Mavericks. They win. If they win a chip in this year or next, say the Celtics don't make it for whatever reason, which obviously neither of us hope happens. But so say it's Cleveland with no NBA Finals experience, and the Mavericks make it back. They've got AD, they've got Kyrie, they've got Clay. There's a lot of championship experience in that rotation. That all of that big three have won a chip at least once. They've got the collective experience of being there last year. If they win, then is that really a lopsided deal? Because that deal led you to a championship. You can't then say it's lopsided. Yes, LA got the better talent, but the Mavericks got a chip out of the trade. So I think it's a bit too soon to call it lopsided. Maybe it's a bit too soon to assume that it's reset the value of the market too. But I think there is a world where Dallas can come out of this and they don't look good, but at least they look vindicated. Right? They made a big move. They made a big call. If it results in the championship, you can't really knock them for making that decision.
Well, it's a win now move. So they just gave away their future, superstar. They gave away the next decade to try to win a title in the next. I mean, what were we going to give AD, a 2 to 3 year window?
Yeah, say 3 years.
31?
I think 3-year window I think is fair, especially with Kyrie and Clay being your main supporting guys. But what does this tell you about Luka? I've said a few times now, I think Luka's more Harden than he is LeBron. Just incredible. Heliocentric basketball to me is not winning basketball. You'll win games, but you won't win championships. Maybe in LA that's different because you've just got the market there and the draw and the weather and all this other stuff to bring. Whatever star you want to bring will come and play with the Lakers. Maybe that changes with the Lakers, but generally speaking, from what I've read and what I'm expecting to come out in the next day or two or week or two, I don't think Dallas were super sold on the fact that Luka could be that guy, to really anchor that franchise. Because if they were, they wouldn't have made this trade.
And if Mark Cuban was still there, they would not have made this trade. I mean, this is a different ownership.
Yeah.
This is Sheldon Adelson's wife that's basically running the team. Being in Las Vegas, we're very familiar with the Adelsons. They own our newspaper. They own our casinos. They are very powerful, very political. And I do think that they just saw the tax bill and were like, we're not giving this guy that's not even in shape a supermax.
Yeah, nearly $400 million. Look, it's not going to happen. The Lakers, on the other hand, will be like, well, this is a generational talent. We'll give him whatever he wants because we're falling arse, like English people would say, arse over tit. We're falling backwards into another star, right? We're falling backwards to get another generational superstar that's going to be able to carry that torch. What that means for LeBron, I don't know. What that means for the rest of the NBA, I don't know. All I know is that I feel much more comfortable with the Celtics facing a LeBron-Luka pairing than I did a LeBron-AD pairing, and to me, that's a win.
Yeah, from the Celtics standpoint, we don't lose any sleep over it. Even the Lakers title odds, I think they're only up to 6 right now, so they're not exactly in the contender category. I think we can all agree, top 2 or 3 or even 4. Maybe you can give 4 teams as contender status. Lakers are in the 6th spot right now. It's not realistic, but if I'm the Thunder, I think that's a very bad matchup for them. And then I think Dallas, because they already own the Thunder even without Luka, adding AD, so now they have a physical presence to go with the threes. The Thunder do not want to see Dallas in the playoffs.
How'd you feel about Denver? Because Jokic usually has some success against AD.
Oh, yeah, the Lakers do not want to see the Nuggets now. I mean, even if they get a starting caliber center, the only thing is, yeah, I mean, AD is such a great defender, and I know Jokic owns him, but nobody else is going to even come close. So, yeah, the Lakers are really screwed if they match up with Denver, which probably happens because for whatever reason, we get that every year.
All I know is as a Celtics guy, I'm looking at this thinking, you guys can do what you want to do. You can attack what you want to attack, trade for who you want to trade for. Most of these teams, especially the Lakers, are 2 to 3 years away. And that's fine by me because that's when I'm expecting this window to close and the retooling process to happen. So if you want to be challenging for a chip when you don't really have to come up against the C's, go for it because that's probably going to be your best bet.
Yeah, it's definitely a much further down the line. It's not a win now move for the Lakers, which is really going to be interesting what happens with LeBron.
And with that, I'm going to say it was all right with a trade. Better for LA. Not really too worried either way. Trade deadline, February 6th. The Celtics shopping a little bit of Jaden Springer right now. Are they going to make a trade? Are they not going to make a trade? Me and Billy will be talking about that on the next episode of the Celtics Chronicle. Hit subscribe, show some love, and we'll be back tomorrow. Peace.